Well, buen Camino pilgrims, I am Jeremiah Gibbs. I am your Camino guide, and today we're going to be talking about the training that's required for Camino de Santiago and what you need to do to be able to make sure that you are there, that you are ready, and that you are able to have a good pilgrimage without lots of pain. And so I lead groups every year, and I've had over 90 pilgrims over the years, and so I've had an opportunity to see a lot of pilgrims be successful, and I'm going to share my perspective today on what you need to do to train. Before I begin these training tips, if you have walked Camino de Santiago, I hope you'll put in the comments some of your training tips so that others who will come along after it will be able to see some of your suggestions about how you trained for Camino as well. Now, I know that if you're watching this, you're probably a little bit nervous about getting ready. You're worried about whether you're going to be able to carry the weight that you need to be able to carry on your back. You may be worried about whether you're going to have foot injuries, or maybe you're worried about whether you're going to have blisters, or whether maybe you're concerned about your back pain or something along those lines. And let me just tell you that I've walked Camino de Santiago. At times I have weighed over 300 pounds when I was walking Camino. I have been with others who were severely overweight who were walking Camino. I've had one person who went knowing that they were going to have a major knee reconstruction when they returned. I don't advise that, but she did fine, and she was very successful and loved her pilgrimage in spite of this intense knee pain that she had throughout the way. I've walked with older pilgrims who are retirement age and older, who have been in my groups, and all of those persons across that entire way have been able to make the pilgrimage with less than about 30 miles that have been spent in taxis. So I know that pilgrims that even struggle with the thing that you are worried about can and do and will make it, in spite of the challenges that are in front of them. So I'm excited for the ways that you're going to be able to feel a sense of accomplishment when you have finished the way and you know that you did it and you were able to make it in spite of the challenges that were in front of you. I believe that 90% of making it, of completing the hike, 90% is injury management, and 10% is just having a lot of grit and pushing through on the times that are hard, because everybody's going to have times that are hard, but we got to push through those, and we got to do so while we're paying a lot of attention to injury management. And I want to talk about how to do that and how to make sure that you're ready so that you don't injure yourself in a way that would interrupt your pilgrimage. So if a big part of being successful on Camino is injury management, then I want to talk about kind of the serious concerns about injuries that a lot of people will have, because you can get injured. I've not seen people get injured in very, very serious ways, but I have seen people have stress injuries that will plague them for even a long time after they get off of Camino. And so I want to talk a little bit about what you can do to make sure that you take care of those injuries. The first thing, and the injury that most people will struggle with, at least some of the pilgrimage, is going to be blisters. Now, blisters are caused by primarily two things: moisture and friction. Moisture and friction. I've done an entire video on how to choose shoes to prevent moisture on your feet and how to reduce friction in your feet. I will link to the video up above for the video on how to choose shoes. So I would definitely encourage you to pay attention to that one, because moisture and friction are the two things you got to worry about to be able to reduce the risk of blisters. But the other thing, and the reason to talk about it here, is the other thing you can do to reduce blisters is slow down. Slow down your pace. The difference between, for example, walking 3 or 3.5 miles an hour, whatever your level of what would be pushing it for you. For me, it's about 3.5 miles per hour is kind of my fast pace. If I walk above 3.5 miles per hour, my body is incredibly stressed by that. If I slow down to 3 miles an hour, I feel almost no stress at all at my body. And so for me, it's a matter of just finding that range in there so that I can walk in a relaxed manner, so that I can not pressure my body and put pressure that will cause those blisters. Now, second injury concern that I think you really do need to be attentive to is activating old injuries. So if you've had a break in one of your bones, or you've had a very serious tear in one of your joints or muscles, then that's something to talk to a doctor about for sure, so that you can know what kinds of risk you may have reactivating that old injury. And then the other thing is, it's super important that when you have an old injury, that you, before you leave, make sure that you know the right kinds of stretches you need to be doing and the right kinds of preparations to be able to make sure that you care for that injury, so that you don't just make that problem much worse. And then the third thing that you really need to be thinking about with regard to injury management are just overuse injuries on your muscles and your joints. So the common ones will be Achilles pain, or pain in the plantar fascia, which is on the bottom of your foot, hip pain, pain in your back and shoulders from having carried a pack. All of those are very much possibilities for when you're walking the way. It absolutely can be the case, but there's going to be a couple things. First of all, when you notice those pains begin, just get on a phone, get on a computer, and Google and search for stretches and exercises related to the kind of pain that you have. Stretching is usually enough. Combined with some ibuprofen, that anti-inflammatory, not just any medicine, but ibuprofen in particular as an anti-inflammatory, and those two, some stretches and anti-inflammatory medicines, will usually be enough to be able to tamp down those overuse injuries, as long as you're not continuing to push too hard. And on that point, that's a great reminder to be able to ask you to like and subscribe the video, because I'll be coming out with a video in the future where I'll ask one of the PT faculty who have been on Camino with me to make a video talking about the most common injuries, the most common stretches needed to prevent injury while on Camino. So subscribe to this video if you're preparing for Camino. I do a lot of videos that help people get ready for Camino de Santiago, spiritually, physically, planning the logistics. So subscribe to this video if you want more of that. And if you would, click like on this video if you're getting value from it. That will tell the YouTube algorithm that this is an important piece of content for people who like Camino, and it'll help send that video out. So I appreciate you clicking the like button. The first thing that you can do to train is going to be to start with low mileage. There's a phrase sometimes in distance hiking that folks will say that the trail will train you. And so I think it's really important that you start with short distances. One of the things that sometimes people do that really will get them, if they start in St. Jean and they try to make it all the way to Roncesvalles on their first day, oftentimes that's just too much. Don't go all the way to Roncesvalles. Stop in Oris and get a kind of a day of a fairly easy day. It's steep, by the way, even to get to Orison, but give yourself a fairly easy day, and shorten that second day before you make your way on to Roncesvalles. And that's going to be a much, much easier beginning and training your body and preparing your body. If you're starting in another location, don't start with your high mileage days right at the beginning. Start with something that's a little bit easier and give your body a chance to kind of acclimate to the distances and the training that you're going to do. The second thing is, before you leave, you're not going to be able to walk all the miles that you need to. I already said we're going to train on the trail. You're not going to be able to walk consecutive days like that. But what you can do is get enough mileage in to make sure that you have the right equipment. I actually think that's more important than training your body, is giving yourself a chance to test the equipment. So get your actual pack, your actual shoes, your actual socks. Put enough weight in it that the pack is at least as heavy, and sometimes a little bit more heavy than what you're going to take on Camino, and then go put some miles on. Do some 12-mile days, just 1 or 2 big 12-mile days, or maybe 4 or 5 12-mile days. 14-mile days, 15-mile days, with the weight, the shoes, the socks that you plan to wear, so that you can make sure that you're going to have the right equipment when it comes time to get out on the trail. Because if you have the wrong equipment and it takes you 4 or 5 days to get to Pamplona or somewhere to replace that, then you're going to have more problems that you've created. So make sure that you test your shoes, test your socks, test your backpack with some long 12 or 14-mile days. Like that last tip, the next tip is going to be, make sure that you walk in a day that's rainy. Make sure that you walk in a day that's cold, especially if you're going like in April, May, or like in October, November, when the weather can get pretty chilly. Make sure that you have rainy days and cold days in your training, because you need to make sure that your rain gear and that your cold weather clothing is going to be adequate for the trail. Even though I said you don't need to do a lot of training before you arrive, I'm now going to say any training that you do is going to be helpful. So I do encourage you, if you have time, if you have the ability to go out and to do some training, to put some miles on your feet, wearing your backpack, those are going to be good, because it's going to get you in a little bit better shape. It's going to make you a little more ready for what you're going to experience, and so you're going to make your trip more enjoyable. But I don't want you to think that that is necessary. And in fact, I would say that most of the pilgrims that have walked, of those 90 pilgrims that have walked with me, I would say well over 80% of them have had no more than 4 or 5 training hikes before they leave from Camino. But if you especially if you're worried about some part of your physical health, your physical ability, then certainly any training that you do will make your hike more enjoyable. And then again, I just want to reiterate, the last tip is to start slow. Start your training slow, start your actual Camino slow, and give yourself a chance to kind of work into that and to be ready for it. And don't start off with massive days right at the beginning. This gives you an opportunity to learn to listen to your body about what is the right speed. So I was earlier giving you speeds that are comfortable for me and my pace. I know that because I've listened to my body, and I know what it's like to walk at 3.5 miles an hour, and I know what it's like to walk at 3 miles an hour, and I know what that does to me and my body. And so you need to be able to have enough training that you become comfortable listening to your body. Sometimes when I'm in training, I will intentionally push through when a blister is forming. If I know a blister is forming, sometimes when I'm in training, I'll just go ahead and push through it and let that blister form, because I want to remind myself what it feels like as it starts to get a little bit warm in that spot, and then it starts to have a blister form. What does that feel like? So that when I'm on the trail, I know how to listen well to my body. So that would be another great value in your training. So I hope that those tips will help you to train better. But even more importantly than that, I hope that these tips will put you at ease about what it takes for you to be successful on Camino. Will training be good? Yes. Is training important for testing your gear? Yes. But even with those things, you do not need to walk big, long distances and prepare for months or even years in advance to be able to get ready to do this. You absolutely can do it. You can be successful, and I know that you'll have a great Camino. Even as I say that you will have a great Camino, know that there will be difficult days. There are going to be people in the comments. In fact, I want you to comment about the challenges that you came into physically and in preparation for your Camino. Because there will be hard days. There are going to be days that it is hard for you to be able to make it, but I know that you can. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you did, please click the like button so that other people will see it too, and subscribe to this channel as you prepare for your Camino so that we can help you make to Camino de Santiago too. Buen Camino.